Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is a little bit different to the previous ones that I've had on my channel. It's one of the videos that I wanted to start getting into, or the style of video that I want to start getting into, where I'm discussing other sorts of economic and financial world government things that are going on around us in the world, and people's views of them online. And yeah, look, I've got the camera set up on the side here. I'm reading off some videos and stuff like that from YouTube, and then also some articles that I look at sort of on a semi-regular basis, mostly by Phil Anderson and those sorts of guys. So this one in particular is a response to JSnip4. He's got a pretty good following on YouTube, 45,000 subs. He may watch this, he may not, I don't know. And most of his videos get a really solid viewing each video. So, I thought that was relevant. I'm in a similar sort of mind frame that I don't think the way we are doing things in the world is very economical. It's not very efficient, and things will have to change in the future. The difference that I see between something that JSnip4 continually talks about and the other guys that also do similar videos to him, and I guess their subscribers and whatnot, is that I don't think it's going to happen next month, and I don't think it was going to happen last year or the year before or the year before that. These are the guys that talk about the end of the world every single year since the last economic downturn, 2008, 2009. So ever since then, they just keep saying it should get worse, should get worse. But if you have a look at the facts, it's actually increased, since 2009 up until now, 2017, so it's like, 8 years or so. We've seen most of the stock market, well, the US stock market's double, triple, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they've all gone up 200%, 300%, thereabouts. Aussie market, we're still up from the low, but we still have a long way to go to reach, to break our highs and go above it. Well, we're not too far off it actually right now. So basically, I'm in a similar mindset, so I'm not really like having a go at the information per se. It's just the timing. So the timing that these people continually talk about the end of the world is coming tomorrow, next month, as I said, last year, the year before, it's way off. And I guess I will be trying to show you where I think it's coming, when I think it's coming, and why. And I just say now, most of it is based on Phil Anderson's work. You can see him on YouTube. He's also got a newsletter and those sorts of things that you can subscribe to. Plus, he's written a very substantial book there on the secret life of real estate and banking. I'll try and put a link down below for, I think it may be on Amazon or one of those bookshops. It's a very solid read. It's quite a big book, and it goes through the history of every financial and land property boom and bust since 1800, and just talks about where the cycles are coming from and what to expect coming up to the next bust. So everyone's in the same views, I guess, when it comes to not necessarily the fundamentals, but we all believe the world should be run slightly differently, and the way it's been done now, it's been hijacked by the elite few, the banks, whatever, governments. They're all in bed together doing their own thing, which when you look deeper into it, it kind of makes sense. Like if you're in that position, that's what humans naturally do. So it's not really conspiracy theory, it's kind of normal human behavior. It's kind of sick at the same time, but you see that's what happens when people get into power. So yeah, what I'm saying with that is we all think somewhat similar, that things have to change, but it's the timing which is the big thing. And if you are led by these guys thinking that it's going to be tomorrow, that basically prevents you from, if you take on the fear, it prevents you from making any real money. It prevents you from investing in things like property. I'm not saying you should go out and invest in property, but if you listen to them that property wasn't a good place to put your money, you'd be pretty stupid. Property since 2009, 10 in US, in some of the towns you could pick up stuff for 20, 30,000 US dollars, and now it's tripled or quadrupled. You have to go and find these places yourself. In Australia, some of our properties have gone up, all have doubled since our bottom. I think it was around 2010, 11. Ours came a little bit later because we had a mining industry boom and those sorts of things. So I'm not spruiking to go into property, I'm just purely pointing out the facts. Personally, I'm not interested in property anymore. I think there's better places to put your money to make a bigger return. Having said that, I'm not someone that has tens of millions of dollars or into the hundreds of millions, and I need a bigger store of wealth. Properties are in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, so you can store your wealth a lot easier than if I was having to buy up millions or hundreds of millions of dollars worth of silver. Those markets are a lot smaller than a property market or a forex market or stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically where we're coming from. I'll jump just quickly into the video. I'll leave the link for JSnip4. I hope that's not a reference to having anything going on downstairs, but if it is, that's your point. I haven't watched Jason for long enough. It's just been recently that I've got onto him through the likes of Cliff High and those other sorts of guys on YouTube. I actually do like a lot of Cliff High's work, and I'll also leave a link to Cliff High down below. Okay, so in this video that Jason Force has put up on the 6th of July, it's basically referencing an article from Wolf Street, and I won't go through and read the whole article out. I'll leave a link for that also down below. And basically, just to sum it up, it's one of those articles that we see all the time in Australia if you follow the news. Sorry about that lighting, it's just coming into the afternoon and shining through the window there. Basically just summing up the results of property prices up or down for the previous month, the previous year. You know, they're up 12% here, down 4% there. What people do is just take the numbers how they wish to and then spew out whatever, whichever direction they believe the market is heading. The numbers could be seen as positive or negative, basically, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, this one goes on to say, year over year, the major cities, we've gone up in the last several years, which is what I just mentioned before, and they're expecting that we should see a decline because that our wages haven't increased at the same rate that property prices have increased. That sucks. Obviously, property is a lot more expensive. Now it's a lot more expensive to buy if you're comparing it with your wage. However, the banks are just finding other ways to make it easier to borrow more money, you know, providing more credit and longer loans and, you know, trying to break down that interest rate as much as they can and all sorts of other ways to get you to buy more property. On top of that, we have a very strong mindset that we should own a property in Australia. I think it's kind of similar in the US. I know parts of Europe don't really care so much for it anymore, but because we have that mindset that we should own a property and that's the next step to take in life, you know, it's ingrained in us. And until we stop believing that, people will continue turning towards property. So that's something that these videos and those guys are doing, you know, a good service to us, is to make us understand that we don't have to buy property. Like, it's not the be all and end all of living. You know, there are other things in life, and it's just it's taught to us in school and as we grow up that you have to own a property. That's that article. I'll leave it down below. Property prices had surged and then wages are going lower. There's the end of the world is coming, so on and so forth. Now what I'm going to do is reference, I'll compare that to something like an article that I get from Phil Anderson, who again isn't saying that the end of the world is coming today, but there will be a big bust coming, and it will be the biggest one we ever see, as they always are, because there's more money in circulation. So every time a bust comes, it's going to be the biggest one we see. So I'll just read through his article briefly here. So he's saying to the subscribers, just in quotes, over the past few years, the land beneath our older homes has become more valuable than the houses themselves. Builders said it is easier and not much more expensive to build a new house than to renovate and expand an outdated one. So the land is becoming more valuable, not necessarily the house itself. All right, so that's a quote from a Wall Street Journal article about property in Northern Virginia. It's also on his real estate clock, working, you can see it on the real estate clock working right before our eyes. So if you like, search for Phil Anderson's property cycle clock. If I remember to, I'll leave another link down below for that. And it basically gives you a rough idea of when these events happen and how to see them. It's not telling you exactly what year and what month and the date it's going to happen, but it gives you an idea of what to look out for as the cycle repeats, as it always does. It always repeats, just in different ways. So you just don't see it the same, but the cycle repeats. Briefly, just before I keep going with the article, Phil Anderson is Melbourne-based and also spends a lot of the time in the UK or France. So he is an Australian and he studies the US property cycle, the US stock markets, the Australian and also the UK. And he's been doing this for, I believe, over 20 years, probably early 90s. And yeah, you can check his work online and his book as well. So it goes on. He's just saying, if you live in Melbourne, do the following drive. So he's actually giving you an example to go through and check it out for yourself, happening in real time. All right, so I'll mention it if anyone's from Melbourne watching and they're interested in that side of things. And he's saying a similar drive could be done in most cities. Drive from the city along Beach Road to North Road, go up North Road, turn left into Warrigal Road, divert to Huntingdale Road, and then go to Station Street, Box Hill, and then take Eastern Freeway back into town. Every fifth property is currently being converted into units, and there is a house in between each of these where the land value is clearly worth more than the dilapidated single dwelling still there, with the front yard overgrown weeds. So he's giving you what to look out for if you wanted to invest in property and renovate it, or sorry, not renovate it, knock it down and build your own set of units. That's another story. That's property development. That's another time. This sort of urban renewal is never ending. It's driven by the economic rent. So that's something I believe Phil also has come up with. If you know of anyone else that talks about the economic rent and where that's origin is from, by all means leave a comment down below. But the economic rent is what drives these world cycles. The process seemingly lost on today's housing experts and economists. Yep, economists always get it fucking wrong. They'll tell you the end of the world is coming over and over and over again. And then when one actually hits, you know, they mention it for that month, and it happens, then they'll just tell you about that time they got it right. But they'll forget about the other 100 times that they got it wrong. All right, have a good look at my real estate clock. Since 1800, the real estate cycle, indeed every cycle, has followed the order on that clock as I have it. Australia simply follows the US. So yeah, whatever's happening in the US starts to come over this way, about 1 year behind. That's what we saw last time. You know, the US had a bit of a meltdown through 2007, 8, 9. Ours followed, and we landed around the low around 2010. So you have forefront, you can see what's happening in the US, and we can act accordingly here in Australia. But when that time comes and it's happening in the US, there will be news saying, don't worry, everything is fine in Australia because of X. Last time it was because of the mining boom, and we didn't see such a tremendous fall like the US did. We had all the US economists coming over here telling us shit's going to drop by 50%, 60, 70%. It probably got, I think it dropped, it depends where it is, it's such a big economy, it dropped 20, 30, 40%, and it trickled down over time. We didn't see the really huge falls as places like the US did and some parts of Europe. So going on with the article that he's written, Australia simply follows the US about 1 year behind. This is why we study the US. As the US events unfold, it tells you what's coming next in Australia. A genuine crystal ball, if there ever was one. I wasn't the first to discover this, but I was the first to put it in clock format. So he does reference another couple of economists throughout history. One is Homer Hoyt, and the other one, Fred Harrison, and also Kondratiev, I remember was a Russian economist who was actually killed by the Russians after he gave them his view of what's happening in the economy and the cycles. They didn't like the look of it or the sound of it, and they said he was conspiring against the government, so they had him killed. I believe that was around the 1920s or 30s, but you can look that up on YouTube as well, internet of course, and look for the Kondratiev wave. I believe that's one surname. All right, Roy Wenslick saw the sequence first in the very early 1930s. He was based in St. Louis, Missouri. Very little of his work has made it onto the web. His works are housed in a large room at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, which I've been to. So Phil's checked it out over there. He does do his research. He's very in detail. At the same time, but independently, Homer Hoyt described the sequence in his 1933 university thesis about the Chicago real estate market. It came out as a book titled 100 Years of Land Values in Chicago. Phil references that book a lot in his book, The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking. So it is a bit of a conglomeration of all the other works that he's read through and done his research on into that one book as well. Fred Harrison put Hoyt's work to great use and forecast the 1991 worldwide property collapse, not at the month, not at that time, but 7 years before it happened. So we do have that on record as well. We can go back and check those things. What price is good knowledge? You now have a choice. Continue to react to the advertising you see around you about an imminent Australian recession, aka what these guys are going on about on the internet, it's going to happen, we're going to have a recession, or get stuck into the land cycle theory and learn why my real estate clock repeats as it does. Phil, I've talked to him over email many times when I ask him questions about, I guess, his beliefs and thoughts. He's not in this to make any, he doesn't make money or a ton of money out of these. He's only a couple $100 a year. I don't know how many thousands of people have it, hundreds of people, probably not that many. He makes his money from investing, so he puts his money where his mouth is and does what he says. He'll either invest in real estate or go back to the stocks, make money from that, put it back into land. That's how he makes his money. He's not out here trying to sell you stuff to do with education. The land series cycle will be far more rewarding for you. All right, that's the article. That is something that I subscribe to, and I pay for that, just like the other guys are talking about their news articles that come from Cliff High. I think Cliff High is like $100 a month or per newsletter. Some of them are a bit cheaper, but a lot of them are around that price. And yeah, Phil stuff, excellent. As I said, I just wanted to bring that to your attention and talk about it because, you know, I'm just writing replies on some of these videos because I do find it quite interesting the way people believe is what's going to happen. But it is the timing. The timing is the crucial thing. Like, we can all say that the end of the cycle is coming, but if you don't have a way to understand when the timing's happening, you can't profit from it. Like, you can't benefit from that. And there's no point in just going around saying the end of the world's coming over and over and over again. It's just not beneficial to anyone. It's not productive. So yeah, if you've got anything else you'd like to add to that, leave it down below. Thank you for watching this video. There's been more of these to come, to sit down, talk, check the references, and hopefully make some good money, invest from it, grow, all the rest of it. If you're new to the channel, remember to hit subscribe and like. If you're also a returning viewer, hit like, comment down below. It helps the video pop up in the searches. You know, we get more activity and it just gets better in the algorithm. So go down and hit the like button, or dislike if you don't like it. Comment on it. I'd love to hear from you guys and keep the channel growing in this direction. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you at the next video. Peace out.